I'm sure you would have got an idea about how to use the if statement and control where or which logic to execute and use the expression. In this chapter, we will discuss about another control statement or a selection statement, which is primarily called as a switch statement. So we'll discuss different ways of using or different use cases where switch case statement can be used. We'll also discuss about how to break a statement or default conditions, nested switch statements as well. So it should be more interesting for people to understand these statements as we go ahead with our journey learning Java programming. If statement that we discussed in the previous chapter requires an expression which must be of type Boolean, which gives a true or false condition, for which we can use if, else or if else ladder. If you have various conditions like that, then the if else statement can become very lengthy. And if your requirement is that you have an expression which necessarily need not provide a Boolean output, instead it might give an integer, a string, a short value. So in that case, if you want to branch, you have switch statement. So switch statement can be used for branching different conditions. So this is the basic concept of where we can use switch statement for multi-way branching logic. In addition to this, you could see that this is more of an alternative to a very large if-else-if ladder-based statement, and it can also be straight away used with a switch statement. So in this case, the expression need not be Boolean. It should resolve with a particular type or something like byte, short, integer, character, enumeration or string. We have not discussed about enumeration. We'll talk about that in further chapters. So how does it work? So we have this statement structure something like this. So you have a switch statement which requires an expression, okay, and then you have another type of statement called case statement, and you specify a value. So a value is what is the outcome of a particular expression. So an expression gives a value, or it can represent a particular value if so and so, and for this particular value you are basically bringing in a statement or a block as such, and you can branch out based on different cases. So there are different case statements that you can basically use, and if your logic does not suit any of this particular thing, or it is not equal to any of these values, you also have an option to use a default statement block. So that is also possible. So let's take a look at how this works. So we will go ahead and create a sample here. Let me bring up the IDE. Okay, so now for this purpose, let us take a very simple example, something like, let us say I will give the name of a color. I want to get the hex value of the color. So every color you see will have a hexadecimal value, which is typically used in the browsers, okay, which we generally call as styling sheets. So in the styling sheet, we use the color. Say for example, your HTML requires background color, so your web page should require a blue color, red color, etc. So it basically uses a hex value. In this example, I will give a very basic logic to convert a name of a color into its equivalent hex value. We are taking some few primary colors. That should be sufficient for this demo. Okay, so let's go quickly create a new class here. So this is color to hex. Okay, and our standard scanner all right. Okay, next we require a system Okay. Okay, let's bring it as print. All right, and let's take this particular color. So is equal to next, which will automatically give me the string. Okay, so now I've got the color, so I want to use a switch statement based on the color. I want to basically give different options. So for which switch color, and we will just create this statement. So it's always a good practice to bring the braces in place before you even start coding. So this is a good practice. So I would insist you people also follow this particular practice as well. So then we use a statement, something called as case statement. So let us say case. So we'll take some black, white, RGB. RGB are the primary colors. So we'll write a program for converting these values, which is sufficient for now. So let's say case black. So if the user has given this black, and then we basically have an option. So let us say system out. So hex value of or we can do a printf. I think printf hex value of %s. Okay, we could say this color. Let me put it in a quote. Color is another %s, just to give the value, and this color. So if I'm giving black, so black colors hash value is, I'm just using string itself, like how we represent in an HTML page, something like 000000. So this is the representation of black. All right, so now let us go ahead, and we could basically bring other case statements as well. So case white, rare, GB. Okay, let's create some colors here. So if it is red, then it should basically return R. So this becomes FF. Okay, then if it is green, then this middle one R, GB, and blue. Okay, and of course white. This becomes FF. So this is a simple mechanism. So let us run this program and understand how it works. Okay, and there is a small bug, or rather a different behavior that you would anticipate here. So let us do that, and then I will tell you what is the problem with this particular code. All right, so let's do this execution. So let's execute this one. So okay, please enter the color. So let's say I would say white. Okay, hit enter. So hex value of white color is so and so. Well, it's worked properly, so there is no issue. Now let us run this again, and now you see the difference in behavior. Okay, so now let me give black and hit enter. So now you see that the color value of black is so and so, black is so and so, black is so and so. So it is given all the values. Why is this behavior? Because we have given black and it printed the value so and so. Now the next case statement, because we are not discontinuing it, so what it does, it evaluates the next statement, next statement, next statement, next statement. So it just evaluates all the case statements by default. Okay, so that's the reason you would see this, the next value, next FF, then 0000 FF, and FF, which is for white. So which is the default behavior that you see here. So how do you address this problem? So we use another type of a statement called break, because we should say the runtime saying that, hey, if this is the case that is evaluated, you evaluate this and break this particular switch statement. So this is very much important. So by adding break, what happens? Let us observe. Okay. Let us give black again here. So this time it printed black and immediately encountered the break statement. It's a type of jump statement. We'll cover jump statements in detail in the later chapter. Okay. So this is one of the jump statement which is basically useful. So let us add break everywhere. Okay. Now we are able to ensure that irrespective of whichever color you choose or you enter rather, you would basically see that it executes that one and breaks. So let's say I will give blue and hit enter. So it enters and gives me the right hex value and I'm good at it. But now comes the issue. If I give an alternate color which is not in this particular case list, what would happen? So let us look at that. I give magenta. I'm just giving an example. You see that nothing is printed, and this is also not a good way. You should give some output to the end user. So how do you handle this? So for this, we have a default case. So we could basically bring the concept of a default here. So we could say default and what you want to execute. So we could say please enter a different color. So that should be sufficient for now. Or try another color. Just to give a default class for our example here. So let us do this and now run this. I've given a different color and you say please try another color, because only the 6 colors what we have given will work in this particular case. So this is a very simple example of how we can use switch statement which can be used for branching purposes when you have multiple values coming into picture and you want to avoid multiple if else blocks. This is a very simple option available. So let's switch back to the mind map here. So default statement is useful especially when you want to bring some optional statement, and again it's optional, it's not mandatory. We saw that without default also switch will work. So if you want to ensure that either of these 3 conditions only have to be met, otherwise I don't want any default, you can remove them. But if you want a default, you have an option where if no case is supported or it is basically equivalent to a particular case and it is not getting into it, then you could basically use this default statement as the last option. Then break statement. So it is again optional. We saw without break statement what would happen. We saw this logical problem. This is more of a logical error. All right. So it sees that it is optional, and what it does, it terminates the sequence and helps to jump out of the switch statement and gives the control to the next following statements in the program. So that's the basic intent of a break statement. And just like how we nested the if else statement, similarly we could also nest multiple switch statements. One switch statement inside another switch statement is also possible. For example, here you see this is a switch count, and case 1 you basically take this and switch a value. This is nothing but a nested switch, and inside that there is one more switch statement cases come into picture. So you might observe that here the value is also having 0 and 1, count is also having 0, 1. So here case 1 are not having any conflicts because they are 2 different switch statements nested one inside the other. So this is also another option available, typically useful for some complex computations. So this is about the switch statement, which can be used for the standard selection based logic in your program. In the next chapter, we will have to do some hands-on. So next chapter is about doing some hands-on exercises. So we will discuss some hands-on elements that you need to do, and then we will go ahead and complete the hands-on. So please ensure you complete the next hands-on exercises and then go to the next chapter. See you in the next hands-on exercise.